Hello, so happy you've tuned in. I'm going to make a spiced cherry and matcha meringue. Obviously, meringue, you need egg whites. I've got 6 egg whites here. 6 egg whites? Yes, I have 6 egg whites. For 6 egg whites, it's handy to have electric whisk. If you're going to do it by hand, boy, you need a lot of muscles. I did do it by hand in another video. You can check that out. Link below. So egg whites go in. So when it gets to this really frothy, almost soft peak stage, I'm going to start adding the sugar. Very important, I forgot to mention, is you preheat your oven. I always forget that, but you won't, you'll remember. And also with any kind of meringue mixtures, when you're whipping up egg whites, you really want to use a glass or metal bowl where you can't have any traces of fat, because any traces of fat, like if you've made a dressing in a bowl before and it's not properly clean, then your egg whites won't whip up. So very important. Okay, I'm going to continue to whisk. Well, my mixer's going to do that for me, and I'm going to add the sugar. So you can see it's become this thick and glossy meringue. I'm just going to scrape down the edges, just going to scrape down the sides to triple check, double check that the sugar hasn't got stuck there. Just whisk a little bit more. So the meringue is looking pretty amazing. You can see it's got these stiff peaks, and I'm going to add 3/4 teaspoon of white wine vinegar. Just continue. And then to finish off, I'm going to add some cornstarch. So 1½ tablespoons. Sprinkle it in. And half. So fold in the cornstarch. The cornstarch would just help to stabilize the meringue. But at this point it should be very stiff. Okay, don't want to mess around with it too much because you want to keep all that air. Okay, so I have a tray with some baking paper. I'm going to use a plate as a guide in terms of size. Just draw around it, turn it around. You can vaguely see it. And then, this is where I'm going to do a little trick. I'm just going to dollop a little bit of the meringue onto the paper. It just glues down the paper. So, just spread it out, even it out a little bit. So I've got a hot oven, I'm putting the meringue in, then I'm going to turn it down to 100 degrees and I'm going to bake it slowly. Basically, you're drying the meringue out. You want to keep that white colour. So slow and low is the way to go. You can see the meringue is in the oven. The meringue is in the oven. So now I'm going to make my cardamom cherries. Very easy. You need some cardamom, of course. I've got some cardamom pods here, and you just want 2 pods like so. I'm just going to crush them. Oh, now I can't do it. Okay, so when you crush them, what happens is all the little pods come out, not the pods, the seeds, and you release that lovely cardamom aroma. I'm going to put that in the pot. It goes in there. Okay, so to make the cherries, I am going to use a tin of cherries, and I'm just going to pour the syrup into my pot. I'm not going to add the cherries because I don't want them to go mushy. So syrup only. It's going on the hob to reduce, becomes nice and sticky. That's it. So on the hob, let that simmer away. Let me just turn this up. So it's reduced down, it looks a lot thicker. So I can turn it off, and I'm just going to pour it over my cherries and let that infuse, cool down. So my meringue is done. It's dried out. It's still a bit fluffy and marshmallowy in the middle. So you're looking at an hour and a half to 2 hours. Really, it's slow and low is the thing with meringue. So low temperature, and you bake it slowly so it dries out. Don't worry if it weeps a little bit, if your meringue's a bit sad. Mine was a bit sad, it weeped on the side. It's not the end of the world. And if it cracks on the top, you're going to cover it up with pastry cream anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'm going to put that on my cake stand. Okay. Yes. And now you could top it with anything you like. So fresh cream and strawberries, classic. You could do like a whipped yogurt, which I do another recipe. You could just do fresh fruit. I mean, it's really up to you. I'm going to do a matcha tea pastry cream, which I did in another recipe. You could check out the recipe here, because I really like cherries and matcha tea. I think they work so well together, not just because of the colour, but because of the flavour as well. Okay, so this is my pastry cream. So you will need to just beat the pastry cream beforehand because it's a little bit stiff from sitting in the fridge. And I'm going to do that in a big bowl because I have a tendency of making a mess. Oh, flops in there. So you just want to beat it or whisk it until it becomes nice and creamy again and smooth. If you wanted to, you could fold in some whipped cream to make it a bit lighter, more airy. I'm just going to keep it as is. So that looks pretty good. Right. Spoon. You could pipe this on, but I'm just going to dollop this on. You can hear the meringue, it's crunchy. I know it's crunchy on the outside and like marshmallowy in the middle. Just spread that out a little bit. Scrape the spoon and the bowl. You don't want to miss out. So the cherries, which in that lovely cardamom syrup. So just spoon on the cherries. That gorgeous dark syrup. And then a bit more on top. Ooh, and it's going to start leaking. Don't worry, it'll start leaking. It's too much of a shame to not use it. That's it. Obviously, you could pop on a few fresh cherries if you wanted to, but I think this is pretty stunning as is. So you have my matcha meringue with spiced cardamom cherries.